#1 choice for AirGuard News. This is First Air Force Now.
Hello, and welcome again to another edition of First Air Force Now. I'm Master Sergeant Jerry Harlan. At NORAD, a binational team of Canadians and Americans work together to ensure the safety of North American airspace. Captain Jared Scott tells us about this critical mission.
The North American Aerospace Defense Command conducts aerospace warning, aerospace control, and maritime warning in the defense of North America. Lieutenant General J.A.J. Perrant, Deputy Commander of NORAD, explained the mission.
The NORAD agreement was signed in 1958. We're about to celebrate our 56th year, and it's been extremely successful. It has integrated air defense for Canada and the U.S., and both countries are so confident in ourselves and their sovereignty that they have decided to share some missions. So we share aerospace warning, aerospace control, and maritime warning.
CONAR is the lead agency for Operation Noble Eagle, an ongoing mission to protect against airborne threats.
Binational Command, NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command, has 3 regions: Alaska NORAD region, Canadian NORAD region, and continental U.S. region. CONAR is the continental U.S. region, and it's an architecture where every region supports each other, and CONAR is key specifically for the asymmetric threat. The asymmetric threat is similar to what happened on 9/11. Before 9/11, NORAD was concentrating on on airplanes that would come from outside the continent. But 9/11 proven that we also have to pay attention at what happens inside the continent. So CONAR stands the watch, holds the watch 24/7 across the continental U.S. region, so that North American citizens are safe from a similar attack to what happened to 9/11. I'm very proud to be the Deputy Commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command. It's a organization that exists nowhere in the world. It's the only binational command in the world, and it has proven to be effective, and we stand the watch for our citizen, and I think it's really good to know that there are people out there that make sure that we are safe.
Through outstanding binational cooperation, NORAD continues to play a vital role in the defense of Canada and the U.S. For First Air Force Now, I'm Captain Jared Scott.
Eglin Air Force Base received its final F-35 Lightning II, making it the first complete F-35 squadron in the Air Force. Airman First Class Nicholas Katz reports.
The excitement of fighter jets blazing through the sky is a common occurrence at Eglin Air Force Base. And thanks in part to a project that began in 2009, it's about to get even more exciting.
Well, we're about to receive our 26th and final F-35A for the 58th Fighter Squadron. The great thing about it is we're going to be able to transition now from growing to a full complement and being that first Air Force Squadron with its full complement of jets to a transition point where we can make the airplane better.
Having a full complement of aircraft allows the pilots to begin honing their skills and working on their tactics.
The F-35 is going to be able to do a lot of things that we've never been able to do with an aircraft before. The airplane was designed to do a mission, to go out and strike particular targets that we've never been able to do with other airplanes. It's going to be a great complement to the F-22 and a replacement for the F-16 and the A-10 as we start to phase out those aircraft.
With having a full inventory of jets and pilots, Colonel Renbarger and the 58th can now focus on ways to improve the jet and make training in it more effective. Reporting from Eglin Air Force Base, Florida, I'm Airman First Class Nicholas Katz.
The 173rd Fighter Wing Communications Flight is busy maintaining the ever-growing information systems at Kingsley Field. Staff Sergeant Addie Carter reports on how they are doing more with less.
Here at the 173rd Fighter Wing, our communications flight has many responsibilities on base that most people are not aware of. They are infinitely tasked with managing network infrastructure, integrating new technology advances, all while maintaining their current hardware and software support for a vast array of integrated technology systems. COM provides all the technology support for contractors, civilians, and their military members.
We have about 1,100 computers, and that doesn't include all of our mobile devices, our radios.
There are more technology and devices than there are communication flight technicians. On average, the communication flight responds to support service repair calls for computers and laptops, telephones, mobile devices, vehicle and handheld radios, along with the base announcement paging and warning system. Most of the positions in the COM flight are one person deep. What's challenging is maintaining customer support while providing time for training and deployments. They are doing more with less.
And we have some big projects. In September, we have something called band modernization. The Air Force is going to come in with a team, and they're going to standardize all of our switches on base.
When technology changes, it should be transparent to those who use it. The communication flight schedules downtime so they can make the necessary upgrades and repairs to the network infrastructure. They want to ensure that services are not interrupted. One point the communication flight commander wanted to emphasize is those who use technology should be aware that people from all over are trying to infiltrate our integrated technology systems. All day, every day. It's everyone's responsibility to keep our technology and data secure from intrusion. Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, I'm Staff Sergeant Addie Carter.
Mechanics at Hurlburt Field keep things running smoothly for many different units across the world. Airman First Class Robert Mason brings us the story.
An aircraft isn't much good if it's parked on the tarmac waiting for repairs. Airmen at the propulsion shop at Hurlburt Field try to keep that from happening by overseeing one of the most important aircraft components, its engine.
Every plane that has a mission from this base has one of our engines on it. We work on every engine on this base. Canon sends their engines to us, Japan sends some engines to us, and England sends engines to us.
A quick run through the maintenance operating instructions helps identify problems with the engine, allowing mechanics to identify and rebuild the damaged parts, sometimes revealing a souvenir in the process.
And we do get engines in sometime. They got bullet holes in them. One of them had a 50 caliber round still in it. That was pretty cool to see.
Senior Airman Bazor finds that stuff very rewarding.
If you ever get the chance, it's a good job to cross-train into. I like it, it's fun. Your inlet, your compressor, and your turbine. Definitely interesting. You got so much to learn, and you make a big impact.
Airman First Class Robert Mason, Hurlburt Field, Florida.
At Tropic Care 2014 in Kauai, Guard and Reserve medical personnel are providing the gift of sight. Tech Sergeant Michael Jackson has the story.
Military optometry is a mobile operation, as Guard and Reserve medics have shown during Tropic Care 2014 on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. Optometrists and technicians work at clinics around the island, figuring out the eyesight needs of local patients.
We're doing a comprehensive screening and a refraction and determining their prescription. We're able to manufacture a pair of glasses for them, whether it's distance or near.
The patients can get their glasses thanks to the behind-the-scenes work of a joint team of active-duty soldiers and sailors making hundreds of pairs of glasses each day.
As soon as we get a prescription in, we analyze it. Then from there, making sure that the glasses line up right in front of the patient's pupils. We cut the lens to shape. We bevel off the sharp surfaces on the back of the lens. From there, we put the lenses into the frame where we make sure that the prescription is correct and the pupillary distance is there. The pair of glasses is shipped off to the patient.
This is all part of a program called Innovative Readiness Training, or IRT. It allows these service members to meet their training needs as part of a real-world mission to provide medical care. The training is joint, which the service members also find useful.
You know, it's always a great opportunity to get out with other services and see how they do things and coordinate and plan things.
The eyeglass shop meets the needs of the clinics set up around the island.
On average, we're filling about 250 to 300 a day.
And that number continues to increase as Tropic Care goes on.
They have been able to do amazing things with what supply they have, and they've had an amazing turnaround time.
Just one part of Tropic Care's field training that's also bringing real-world results to the people of Kauai. Tech Sergeant Michael Jackson, Kauai.
Guardsmen and women from Hawaii's 154th Wing's 199th Fighter Squadron and the 204th Airlift Squadron have deployed to Malaysia with their active-duty counterparts for total force participation in Kok Tau Fun. Kok Tau Fun is a bilineal large force deployment exercise between the Royal Malaysian Air Force and the Pacific Air Forces.
Kok Tau Fun is a multinational exercise between the United States and Malaysia designed to enhance interoperability and form relationships between the two nations.
By participating in exercises with military forces from partner nations in the Asia-Pacific, the U.S. demonstrates its commitment to stability in the region. PACAF has conducted exercises with the Royal Malaysian Air Force since the early 1980s, but this is the first time the F-22 Raptors have ever deployed to be a part of a Southeast Asia exercise.
Well, the F-22, this participation for this exercise is the first ever F-22 deployment to Southeast Asia. So this is a historical event for us, and we're very honored and excited to be here. This week we're starting out with what we call basic fighter maneuvers and air combat maneuvers. So we're utilizing Raptors going against MiG-29s as well as Su-30s and Hawks and F-18s, as well as the F-15s that we see over here from Barnes. We're all participating in basic fighter maneuvers and air combat maneuvers this week. Kind of a stair-step or building block approach, walk before you run. And then next week, we're going to go ahead and flow into large force employment, looking to enhance that interoperability and large wartime mission sets so that we can practice large amounts of mission planning, mission prep, and then also have these large force employments between the two nations.
This is Tech Sergeant Andrew Lee Jackson reporting with the Hawaii National Guard.
Adjusting the radio. 2 seconds. A sip of soda. 5.5 seconds. Checking a text. 6 seconds. A few seconds of distraction can change a life. Stay alert. Save a life.
Since 1941, the Civil Air Patrol has provided support for the U.S. Air Force and our nation. Captain Jared Scott tells us about their unique mission.
Playing a vital role for our nation, the Civil Air Patrol accomplishes several important missions for the Air Force.
We currently fly about 100,000 hours a year, but 70% of those hours are directly for Air Force assigned missions. Many of those missions are to train our members to be prepared for the actual events that occur, and then the remainder are the actual mission hours that we fly every year.
CAP brings essential and cost-effective assets to support the continental U.S. NORAD region missions, such as search and rescue, counter-drug, aerial imaging, Operation Noble Eagle, and live fly exercises all across the country. In addition, the Civil Air Patrol was recently awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for outstanding service during the Second World War.
There was an early period in the war during which the Navy could not interdict successfully the U-boat menace that was right off of our shoreline. Cargo ships were being sank, and there was quite the crisis at the time. CAP was spun up to interdict, and at one stage during the war, we were actually attacking Nazi U-boats with civilian airplanes and volunteer CAP pilots. And I think that the record will show that 2 submarines were actually sank due to Civil Air Patrol depth charging.
As a primarily volunteer service, the Civil Air Patrol acts as a cost-effective force multiplier for the Air Force.
We are the auxiliary of the Air Force, and the message that I would try to impart, as your auxiliary, CAP is there to support the Air Force in all of its missions. We have 1,500 squadrons that are geographically dispersed throughout the United States. Civil Air Patrol members in those units represent Air Force Blue, wear Air Force Blue, in places that may be hundreds of miles from the nearest Air Force base or Air Force installation.
Reporting for 1st Air Force Now, I'm Captain Jared Scott.
Red Horse is a well-known combat construction team. They provide the Air Force with a highly mobile civil engineering response to support contingency and special operations worldwide. Airman First Class Robert Mason shows how they train to be as rapid as possible.
Members of the Red Horse Squadron at Hurlburt Field pride themselves on being ready to deploy at a moment's notice.
Sir, today and also for the rest of the week, we are doing an operational readiness exercise for the entire squadron. We are kind of setting the benchmark for the Red Horse Enterprise at this point as far as our ability to process cargo, process personnel, and exercise the unit's readiness for our ability to deploy worldwide.
Along with constant training to do the best construction work possible, this exercise also focuses on building pallets of supplies and equipment for humanitarian efforts overseas.
Like here, this was a shower and shave unit that we had to take out and put it all on one pallet, which was a task all in itself. But we accomplished it. We had a lot of guys, so a lot of help. Everything's been going great.
During an exercise, everyone puts their own separate jobs aside to work together as one unit to ensure mission success. Reporting from Hurlburt Field, Florida, I'm Airman First Class Robert Mason.
Services airmen from Michigan and Rhode Island Air National Guard wings recently participated in innovative readiness training. Tech Sergeant Rachel Barton has the story.
Camp Hines, a Boy Scout camp in Raymond, Maine, is the site of an innovative readiness training mission where military personnel are revitalizing the camp, and the services team on site is a crucial part of that mission. Air National Guard services personnel, among other duties, are responsible for feeding deployed troops. The services team consists of 6 Rhode Island Air National Guard members from the 143rd Force Support Squadron, with additional services units embedding with them throughout the summer for annual training to gain experience working in field conditions. Senior Airman Anthony Hammond with the 143rd FSS takes pride in his duties at the camp.
We are right now feeding 3 hot meals a day. I love being in services. One thing I do for me personally, I believe after working on long days, 12, 16-hour days, seeing a great meal will be prepared for them. They have to have a hot meal.
Senior Master Sergeant James Alves with the Michigan Air National Guard, once an aircraft maintainer, is now learning the job of Prime Ribs Manager for the 127th FSS, responsible for food, recreation, fitness, mortuary affairs, and lodging.
So this trip here gives me an opportunity to hone the food service area of that. At the core of it is basically having the fuel and the fire to get out there and do your daily job. That meal is one of those things that just gets you ready to either continue your day, start your day, or finish your day.
The majority of the meals are prepared from scratch in a National Guard disaster relief mobile kitchen trailer. The tireless crew is responsible for the critical task of feeding up to 100 airmen, Marines, and soldiers per day over the course of the project. Reporting from Camp Hines, I'm Tech Sergeant Rachel Barton.
Medical airmen and soldiers joined forces during an exercise evaluation. Airman First Class Joe Bowles has the story.
When disaster strikes Indiana, airmen from the 181st Intelligence Wing, Indiana Air National Guard, are always prepared to respond. As part of the 19th Chemical, Biological, Radiological, Nuclear, High-Yield Explosive Enhanced Response Force Package, or SURF-P, racers are always ready to assist the Hoosiers of Indiana during times of adversity. The Joint Air and Army National Guard 19th SURF-P participated in a training and evaluation exercise at Muscatatuck Urban Training Center in Butlerville, Indiana, to better prepare Guardsmen for their state mission.
We prepare every month during drill weekends and during exercises such as this to be ready in case something happens, and we make sure that we're always ready so that we can be there to assist the civilians and assist our local communities.
Guardsmen, both soldiers and airmen, work side by side on teams including search and extraction, decontamination, fatality search and recovery, and medical triage. The Joint 19th SURF-P regularly trains to ensure their cohesiveness and readiness to serve the state of Indiana.
We've worked together, we know each other, we know what each other needs as far as to make this mission work. So the training to have all of this together, to have as many patients as we're going to see come through, it's extremely valuable. We would not be able to work the mission when it comes around if we haven't done this training.
The 19th SURF-P can respond to any natural or man-made disaster throughout Indiana within a 6-hour time frame and remains always ready, always there. For the 181st Intelligence Wing Public Affairs, I'm Airman First Class Joe Bowles.
Active duty and Air National Guard airmen trained together at Aviano Air Base in Italy. Tech Sergeant Chris Shepard reports.
Nearly 50 members of the Maryland Air National Guard participated in their annual training at Aviano Air Base, Italy.
I'm learning different facets of my job that I don't really have the opportunity to participate in on my home base. So it helps me understand what each section is supposed to do, what their responsibilities are, and how I play my part in making sure that everything comes together.
It was an opportunity for Guard members to train side by side with their active duty counterparts and to demonstrate their value as part of the total force.
The most rewarding part is that active duty does appreciate what we bring to the table.
Guard members were assigned to 14 different work centers throughout the base, showcasing their unique talents and civilian experiences, ensuring mission success.
What they bring to the table for us is that fresh set of eyes. Their perspective, their energy really lends assistance to everything we do here.
The majority of the group was from the 175th Logistics Readiness Squadron, but there were also representatives from the Wing's JAG office, Public Affairs, Finance, and Chaplain's offices.
I've learned that we are limited to our resources compared to active duty, but we still get the same job done, just in a different fashion.
After 6 months of planning, airmen from the 175th Wing received over 2,000 hours of combined training. Reporting from Warfield Air National Guard Base, I am Tech Sergeant Chris Sheppers.
Who serves at the Montana Air National Guard? People just like you. People like Jackie Fogarty, daughter and part-time medical administrator. Ed McLean, prior service Marine Corps, Great Falls police officer, and part-time security forces member. Brian Hagee, train engineer and part-time heavy equipment operator. Extraordinary people doing extraordinary jobs. Come join your neighbors, friends, and families as members of the Montana Air National Guard. Call 800-874-7763 or find us on the web at mtairguard.com.
Adjusting the radio. 2 seconds. A sip of soda. 5.5 seconds. Checking a text. 6 seconds. A few seconds of distraction can change a life. Stay alert. Save a life.
A new home, a new mission. The Happy Hooligans are the new team in town. A team of warriors, trained, tested, and equipped. There's a new team in town. You could be one of them. Join the North Dakota Air Guard, the new team in town.
One group of airmen believes they've found the perfect outdoor activity to work on the 4 pillars of resiliency. Tech Sergeant Nicholas Kurtz explains the 50 Summits kickoff.
Back in 2005, a group of airmen independently set out to make the Air Force the first military organization to climb the highest peak on each continent, a feat known as the 7 Summits. It started as a way to honor fallen comrades and ended up promoting camaraderie and esprit de corps among U.S. airmen across the globe. 8 years later, the airmen tackled the final mountain and posed for this photo near the top of Mount Everest. But 7 summits wasn't enough. Now the Air Force is going for 50.
So the Air Force 50 Summits kind of sprung from the 7 Summits idea. Basically, airmen taking airmen to the top of the U.S. one state at a time. And it's to reinforce camaraderie within the Air Force, resiliency by getting people out, focused on a challenge and a goal, and getting up to do something together.
The journey up 50 summits begins with a single hike. To kick off the mountaineering marathon, airmen met up at the Air Force Memorial to climb to the highest point in Washington, D.C., which isn't much of a climb at all, really. It's only 409 feet above sea level, not even as tall as the Washington Monument. But an urban excursion through some of America's greatest military landmarks is still pretty cool.
One of the reasons we're also going through Arlington is to kind of commemorate, the memories of those that ended up going before us and kind of give a good kickoff for the 50 Summits Challenge.
The group treated it just like a real climb, finishing as a team and even posing with flags at the summit, so to speak.
It's been tough ever since Camp 4. We've been struggling, but we've managed to do it without oxygen. We're doing an ethical climb.
It was challenging for me with the cancer diagnosis and chemotherapy. It really weighs on you, on your physical being, and then on your spiritual being. And I really needed this. I felt like I accomplished something today, and it makes you feel better. Throw the shoulders back, pop the chest out, and feel better.
Now, with the DC kickoff climb wrapped up, the group's inviting all airmen to join in the fun. Check out USAF50summits.com for info on a climb in your state or to organize one yourself.
Stay tuned, because this is going to happen in every 50 states, and it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be just a hike up to the top. We're going to make it challenging, and it's going to be based off of your inputs, and we're going to make it something that you're going to be proud of accomplishing.
Tech Sergeant Nicholas Kurtz, Washington, D.C.
Successful cargo drops take careful planning and execution. Airman First Class Robert Mason shows how it all comes together.
One of the keys to a successful cargo drop is a properly packed parachute. And that begins here at aerial delivery on Hurlburt Field.
Well, first we'll do a shift brief and find out what we need to be getting done. If there were drops prior to that night, we'll go to the tower, we'll assess what we need to, grab what we need, as in G12s, the bigger parachutes, we'll get 3 guys on that, and then the table chutes, we'll try to knock those both out at the same time. So our primary mainly is trying to get the chutes packed for anything that has to drop that night, or use any of the parachutes behind me for rigging the loads.
We pack the parachutes, we pull them out of the tower over there and put them up on these tables, and we pack them all day.
Paying attention to detail is one of the most important things for Senior Airman Stogdill and her co-workers.
I mean, I believe it's very important to get it accomplished, because, I mean, without us packing it correctly, there might be a malfunction or something, and if we can't get our product or the item down range for when it does go real world, it's not going to be accomplished for the fighters down there to use whatever they need.
These airmen know that every part of their job done correctly ensures success further on down the road. Airman First Class Robert Mason, Hurlburt Field, Florida.
Active duty and Mississippi Guard members recently took part in a special operations training exercise known as Emerald Warrior. Tech Sergeant Ed Staten reports.
The high-tempo and ground-pounding U.S. Air Force Special Operations Training Exercise, known as Emerald Warrior, recently took place at strategic training areas across the southern United States. The joint military exercise was designed to better prepare our military forces to prosecute the global war on terrorism and to assist our interagency partners in the protection of the United States from foreign and domestic enemies.
Emerald Warrior is Special Ops Command's largest annual exercise. It focuses on tactical level training involving Special Ops forces in the ground and in the air, and all the regular forces that support them.
The 2014 event included an increased role taken by the Mississippi National Guard, as the combined Air and Army National Guardsmen hosted up to 1/3 of the exercise's training at the Gulfport CRTC and Camp Shelby.
And this is the largest training exercise put on by Special Ops Command. It's headquartered at Hurlburt, but this year we'll have about 430 personnel, fixed wing, rotor lift, and ground special forces operating out of the CRTC.
The Air National Guard training facility is attractive for many reasons, with its resources across the state.
We have a lot of ramp space, but the most important thing the CRTC has to offer for national defense training is our air-to-air and air-to-ground ranges.
A strategic component of the 2014 Emerald Warrior exercise provided a joint training opportunity for the Mississippi National Guard and the Israeli Air Force at the Gulfport CRTC.
It also helps us get into a joint training environment, which is what the National Guard does. That's what part of the Partnership for Peace program is. And what we're trying to do is bring the hospitality of Mississippi to the Israelis, let them enter a very unique training environment for them that has foliage as compared to the desert.
Included in the Israelis' air fleet was a C-130 that participated in the 1976 raid on Entebbe. The IAF's professional operations throughout Emerald Warrior made quite an impact on their host.
This airplane is absolutely amazing. It's been modified where it's got tremendous capability. Very skilled airmen who are flying it with the Israeli Air Force.
The Emerald Warrior exercise also enabled Mississippi National Guardsmen to train with Air Force active duty personnel stationed at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. Not only will the developing relationship enable reserve and active duty personnel throughout Mississippi to be better prepared for national contingencies, but it will also create an enhanced response to local events.
And being able to practice with those same folks that we're deployed with, I think really makes us much more prepared to respond to something, heaven forbid, that would happen stateside, some type of natural disaster, where we would have to potentially mobilize and move critical patients throughout the country here.
For the Mississippi National Guard, I'm Technical Sergeant Ed Staten.
I'm Master Sergeant Jerry Harlan, and that wraps up another edition of First Air Force Now. For me, after 9 years of writing, producing, and working both sides of the camera, it's time to say goodbye to 1st Air Force and to this show. But to help us tell your story, contact the 1st Air Force News Director. And to all the men and women who are making sacrifices at home and abroad, thanks. We'll see you again soon with another edition of 1st Air Force Now.